The banks of the Manuherikia River are quiet and peaceful on this Central Otago morning. However, this area was once a bustling hive of industry, and the reason for this activity was the lure of gold. In 1900, New Zealand's southern provinces of Southland and Otago were at the peak of a gold dredging boom, with 228 dredges in operation. To the northeast from Alexandra, there were 16 gold dredging licences on the Manuherikia River up to the Otago Central Railway Bridge at the Manuherikia Gorge. Just below the gorge at the confluence with Chatto Creek is the stretch of river licensed to the Chatto Creek Gold Dredging Company. It is hard to credit that this quietly trickling river was once home to the Chatto Creek Gold Dredge, and that it worked all across these gravel flats. Built in 1898 on the banks of the river, the dredge worked for various owners until it was last reported in the newspapers of 1909. In 2004, an Alexandra group found the remains of the dredge where it had sunk in the river. They recovered much of the metal parts and shifted the timbers from the heavy wooden pontoons up onto the riverbank. In November 2012, the Otago Goldfields Heritage Trust uplifted the dredge remnants from an Alexandra industrial yard and moved them to a display site at the Chatto Creek Tavern.
That's a beauty. And there's some more metalwork there beside it. And there's some more just down a bit. So we'll get the diggers to have a wee play in here too.
Today, members of the Trust, along with heavy machinery contractors, work to relocate the last remnants of the dredge from the river up to the Chatto Creek Tavern for permanent public display. dredge floated on 2 large wooden pontoons, which were made of kauri, imported ironbark, and blue gum. Much of the upper timbers have been destroyed in some unexplained fire. So was the Chatto Creek gold dredge big or small? Well, by comparison with other dredges in Otago, the Chatto Creek dredge was small. However, it was still a large vessel, being 18 metres long or over 21 metres when including its projections. It was about 8 metres wide, and the 2 pontoons had a depth of 1.5 metres. Its 12.8 metre bucket ladder allowed it to dredge 9 metres below the waterline, and an elevator, also 12.8 metres long, removed the tailings. The dredge made reasonable but not significant returns. It had 2 good weeks in which it recovered 2 kilograms and 4.2 kilograms of gold, but in general it returned between 300 grams and 1 kilogram of gold a week. At that time, the most successful dredges on the Clutha River recovered between 3 kilograms and 6 kilograms of gold a week. The 2 weeks of good returns were obtained when working at the bottom end of the claim, adjacent to that of the Nil Desperandum Dredging Company. In November 1898, the Nil Desperandum had struck a very rich lead, returning over 4 kilograms of gold in 3 weeks, which was enough of a success that a mini gold rush to the Manuherikia occurred. The Chatto Creek dredge was steam-powered and had a 12 horsepower Marshall steam engine to power the winches and bucket chain. However, it was relatively lightly built and it suffered breakdowns, was unable to work when the river was in flood, and in February 1900 one pontoon was seriously damaged by fire. The senior person on a dredge was the dredge master. As well as overseeing the dredge operations and determining where it should operate, he was responsible for recovering the gold and getting it into the bank. Dredge hands kept the boiler operating, operated the winches to move the dredge back and forth across the dredge hole, and to raise and lower the bucket chain. Other people that supported dredging operations were coal miners, transport companies, foundries and blacksmiths. The Chatto Creek Gold Dredging Company claim was at the junction of Chatto Creek with the Manuherikia River. The licence allowed them to dredge a 20-hectare section of the riverbed extending from inside the Manuherikia Gorge above the Otago Central Rail Trail bridge down to the top of the next company's claim, that of the Nil Desperandum Company. The Chatto Creek Gold Dredging Company was voluntarily wound up in 1901 and the dredge was sold for £620 to the mortgagees. As they were owed £610, they only had to hand over a £10 note to complete the transaction. The mortgagees then on-sold the dredge to other owners who ran it sporadically until it was last reported in the newspapers of 1909, so it was likely to have been abandoned around this time. So the Chatto Creek Gold Dredge is now moved to a new location, and one where it will represent the gold dredging activities of Central Otago and the Manuherikia River.